Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who thinks Threads could be a big winner in 2024, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. I'm Sean Callanan, and welcome to episode 382 of Sports Geek. This week, I chat with Jason Sourasis. He's the chairman of Western United Football Club, playing here in the A-Leagues. As always, you can contact me via multiple methods. Email sean@sportsgeekhq.com or on socials at Sean Callanan or at SportsGeek. We can just go to the Sports Geek website, sportsgeekhq.com, follow the prompts, and you can reach out to me. I really do appreciate the support for the podcast, over 380 episodes. But one thing I want to talk about is I'm thinking about taking Digital Dollars workshops on the road, looking for some venues to do some private and public workshops. Please reach out if you're interested for your team or even individual. It could be people working your digital team, your data team, your sponsorship team. If you are looking to build revenue from your digital activities, that's exactly what Digital Dollars is for. Help your partners activate with your digital audience and have happy fans as a result. As always, you can always go to Sports Geek HQ for this episode or any episode of the Sports Geek podcast. Please enjoy my chat with Jason Sourasis from Western United. Very happy to welcome Jason Sourasis. He's the chairman of the Western United Football Club, playing out of the A-Leagues. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. I always ask people how they got their start in sports and their foray into the world of sports business. What about yourself? What was your entry into the world of sports?
I've always been a sport nut. As you know, we've had a few dealings in the past where we've crossed paths in the sports journey, but ultimately started as in financial services, actually giving advisory, being an advisor to athletes. Then grew into basically talent management, where we represented a lot of athletes and had a focus on mentoring financially and making sure that, yes, they earn the dollars they should be earning and maximise that, but also make sure they're looking after that money when it comes in. So then have slowly just kept diversifying into different sports via the love of sport, really, and then crossing over into seeing global trends, and which has led to, I suppose, the biggest partnership we're working on at the moment, which is Western Melbourne Group, that we'll talk about shortly. But ultimately, it started in advisory to athletes, and it's grown into we've now got a portfolio of sports assets under the JASAC Investment Group that we're continuously looking for opportunities and growing in.
So in that athlete management space, I mean, you would have seen that ESPN 30 for 30 broke of, athletes, young males and females getting a lot of money early on, but, not having the financial wherewithal to understand what to do with it. Was that your sort of, first starting point to help them understand the structures, what they should be doing with their money, and sort of helping them set themselves up, because it's a really short shelf life being an athlete.
No, it is, and ultimately, AFL particularly. So we JASAC Investments owns Hemisphere Management. Represent over 100 AFL athletes, but the dollars that AFL athletes isn't probably the same as some of the other athletes we've got that are in global sports. But ultimately, the discipline of saving money is at the heart of making money, really. So those disciplines when you're young, whether you're earning 100,000 or $1 million or 10 million, ultimately, if you don't know how to save a dollar, you're not going to be able to set yourself up financially. So a lot of it is, especially early days, is mentoring and setting goals and setting the discipline of saving, and then more of an education process around looking for different investment options, diversifying, and as you grow and learn more, the ability to look for different opportunities that diversify the investment portfolio.
So you're talking there about investments, and we spoke to Chloe Alsop in episode 338 about the startup phase of Western United, and getting a team on the park and connecting with those fans, those very first fans, and those one-on-one experiences. But I guess the story of Western United starts earlier, that in the bidding process and actually getting the license. What was that process like initially to getting the Western Melbourne Group together?
Yeah, it was a pretty whirlwind process. So to think around, by the time we actually agreed on a deal with Wyndham City Council, who's our partner, I think we had a bid. It was 2018 around December. We entered late because we were still structuring a deal behind the scenes with our partner, which is Wyndham City Council. It's the first public-private partnership in sport in Australia. So whilst these partnerships are quite common overseas, when something's new and innovative, ultimately it takes time. So we didn't enter the bidding campaign until late in the process for the new team in the A-Leagues. And we literally, I think 3 weeks before putting our proposal before closing, won a license. Very luckily, I think it was we were the winning bid out of 15 or 20 bids. And then we had our first board meeting, I think February, March 2019. And our pre-season started 2-3 months later, and we had no team, nowhere to play, no coach, no players, no sponsors, no members. So it was just a whirlwind journey. I think we made our finals in our first year. To be looking back now into our 5th year, to be in Tarneit where we are now at Ironbark Fields and actually have phase 1 complete, it's been a journey of 5 years where everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. So it's actually quite satisfying to be sitting here now, and literally just jumping hurdle after hurdle, and now having the world see the actual sport property play that we're doing with a local council. It's very rewarding now, Sean. But I can assure you, like the period to get here, it's we're really proud of it. But it's been a grind.
So to for the international audience or people potentially in Australia, where are you in Tarneit is where you are, but where is it? Where's it located? Why was that as a destination for Western United?
Yeah, so ultimately we're 30 kilometres or 20 miles from the Melbourne CBD west. It's the fastest growth corridor officially in Australia. So ultimately we wanted to come somewhere where there was population growth, so we could grow with that population. And what we're bringing in is tribalism through geography. My wife's from Milwaukee, and I always reference Milwaukee as the example. Where you've got every kid in Milwaukee, everyone in Milwaukee, in effect, almost barracks for the Milwaukee Bucks. So you've got that tribalism around where you live. The stadium, which was designed by Populous, is outward facing, built into the city, next to a train station, next to housing, jobs in the city, and it activates the city. But I love that it brings tribalism. It's vibrant, and the stadiums nowadays, they're no longer four-sided and closed, especially football stadiums. They've got to be outward facing and activated all year round. So we picked Wyndham ultimately because it was the growth area in Victoria. We wanted to represent that growth area being the West. We wanted tribalism, and ultimately the location we ended up with was right smack bang in the middle, next to a train station that's going to experience a lot of growth over the next 5 to 7 years. So, our journey will grow as the population grows.
And you were talking about earlier about looking at trends both locally and globally. And from a stadium point of view, it's not just, like you said, the four walls of the stadium and you're looking at everything inside. It's really, what does the precinct look like? What does the hub look like? What are the supporting businesses around it? And also, what's the community that will build around it? Has that really been, I guess, the jewel in the crown to say, hey, the stadium's going to be in the middle, but it doesn't really work if we don't have everything around it?
Absolutely. And we're part of Wyndham's city centre, which is really key to note, and it's going to be multi-sport. So whilst, yes, we're a football franchise at the moment, the way we've designed the stadium, and we've moved into the first one, so there's going to be 2 stadiums. One's a 5,000 capacity that we've already moved into and played 5 games in last season. Then the major one, which will be a 15,000 capacity, 10,000 seat stadium for the 26-27 season. Ultimately, a lot of it's designed as the heart of a city. Next to the rectangular stadium, there's plans for an indoor arena to host events like basketball, netball, esports, combat sports, conventions, concerts. But ultimately, we want it to be the heartbeat of the West from a sport and entertainment sort of precinct. And ultimately, around us, and I love following global trends, as you said, and I love LAFC's model where they've grown with the community, they've involved the community, they've tapped into the South American Latin community really, really well. We're doing the similar sort of philosophy here where it's all community-led. It's partnership with the council. It's with council actually helping open doors into the community and letting the community know that, hey, this is where you come to live, to work, to play. And this team represents your region, and create that tribalism through geography, then grow with that community.
I mean, it is very similar to LAFC. Colin Kelly, when I spoke to him, he was talking about their block by block strategy of literally going into each block and bringing him into the fold for the club, and also the fact that you can look out in the stadium and see some of the LA billboards and they're sort of brought in as part of the architecture. So, it's definitely similarities there.
Absolutely. And even just thinking, when we started this journey 5 years ago, you couldn't see housing. Whereas houses, it grows so quickly, like it's literally on our doorstep now. And even, it's anticipated within a 2 kilometre radius of our main stadium, which, as I said, will be ready for the 26-27 season. There'll be over 100,000 people, mainly new residents, living within 2 kilometres of our stadium. So it's we've got the launching pad to reach our ambitions of becoming the largest club in Australia.
And so looking at where you are now, and a lot of the progress has happened to, when, those initial plans were happening, probably starting at the back of a napkin, and then, hurried meetings and getting those bids together, and what that initial vision is. How much have you needed to be agile and ready to take changes as the project has changed, and also had challenges along the way?
Yeah, it's, our whole organisation is really built on the foundations of jumping hurdles and becoming great. So we say great because it reflects growth, respect, effort, audacity, and togetherness. And ultimately, that's what we are. And if you think about, we won our licence, and less than a year later, the A-League separated and became independent from Football Australia, and the global pandemic hit. So our whole vision was grow with the community, and especially in the state of Victoria and Australia, we couldn't even access the community for 3 of our first 4 years. But to look back now in our 5th year and say, right, we went from 1 team to now we've got 16 teams. We've got pathways for boys and girls through the national competition. We won the A-League men's in our 3rd year, which is beating Melbourne City, which is owned by the Manchester City Group, beating Melbourne Victory in the semi-final. We won the A-League in our 3rd year, where teams in the A-League haven't even won the A-League in the 15, 20 years they've been around. So, the achievements we've made on the park and the impact on the community has been enormous. And you know what, girls in the north and boys in the northwest of Victoria can now aspire to have a pathway to play in the national competition, and a team to support that will get them there. And separate to growing a sports franchise, we've also been getting all the planning approvals for a 150 acre, 62.5 hectare development that's all shovel ready now, with planning approvals at the state level as a approval as a project of state significance, with 1,000 homes, infrastructure, sport assets in being the indoor arena and 2 rectangular stadiums, and then a large portion of commercial land that will actually activate the city. So it's been a journey. Everything's gone wrong, Sean, but ultimately we're here telling the story and have jumped every hurdle, and now really excited to embark on the actual build phase now. And
so, I mean, you're in a unique position. Normally, when people are doing a real estate development, it's a really different, messaging and you're a different set of problems. But you're also doing that in conjunction with, building of a team and building of a fan base. How do you, as the chairman of the club, get the fans and that long-term vision, saying, hey, we're going to be here? Because those, some of those lines have changed. Initially you were like, we're going to get this stadium built, it's going to be done quickly, but pandemic and things get in the way, and housing, the differences in our economy have changed. How do you keep that balance of, I've got to keep the plans going and keep the everything moving on the development, but also bring the fans along for the journey and have them have buy-in for what you're trying to do in the long term?
Yeah, and it's been a challenge, but it's also now something we're really proud of, the fact that we're in Tarneit, and ultimately we've got such a loyal fan base, but the narrative changes, from the 5 games we played last season onwards, because we're actually in our home. Whereas the lead up, we played, I think, 7, 8 different venues. Most of them weren't conducive to football because there's a lot of oval pitches in Victoria and made for AFL or cricket, but no purpose-built football. So we feel like our growth for the next foreseeable future is really with the community as it grows, and literally doing that LAFC and knocking on doors that are local to us and, growing within a 1, 2, 5, 10 kilometre radius, and actually building that supporter base that knows that we represent them. Before that, everything that, from a global pandemic to costs escalating to, there's a lot of factors, but we're not a look back group. We're just looking at it and thinking, gee, how exciting is our future? And ultimately, when anything's first, like we're pioneering in Australia, but these models are quite common overseas. So normally the owners of the franchise do own the infrastructure, those stadiums they play out of, and they activate the city using the real estate around it. And ultimately, in these tough economic conditions where even governments don't have as much money, ultimately it's a partnership with between private enterprise and public enterprise to get the social outcomes. So we're proud to be doing that. So to have a lot of, I suppose, naysayers, it's always the way when something's pioneering and hasn't been done before. But I think the first games that we had here, really proved that our model and what we're doing will change the game here in Australia.
And the thing is, you will, at least for this market, as you said, you will have new and diverse revenue streams and capital raising opportunities because you are owning and developing the precincts, which other teams that might have vast membership databases and vast email lists and big sponsors are really turning up as a tenant to a stadium and really just redressing the rooms every time they walk in. So you've got those advantages going forward.
Yeah, so like even the main stadium, the way we've designed it, it's 3-sided. There's a screen that faces outwards and inwards, which just activates that stadium all year round. So there's revenues from car parking, from food and beverage, from events that are non-match day events. There's a lot of income coming into the group, which then enables us to invest more in the sporting franchises and grow those sporting franchises and activate the city. And ultimately, the credit goes to Wyndham City Council to have the foresight to be the first local government in Australia to embark on this public-private partnership, where at the heart of it is sport, health, wellness, and ultimately, we're setting a new benchmark for sporting assets. So when you're a new franchise where everything's gone wrong and you couldn't access the community, like I said earlier, to now actually having such different diversified multiple revenue streams, which then not only just ensures your viability, but it enables you to grow and invest in the community.
And from a chair point of view, and you as the board, what are things that both you're looking for from the executive and the team at Western United, and what are the things that you're sort of saying, hey, this is what we've done? Because they're the people like Chloe who we've spoken to, they're the doers, they're the ones that are out there getting it done. What do you look for, and what do you ask as a chair of the club?
Yeah, it's we're blessed to have all our staff, let alone just the executive team. We're blessed to have just great people, and it's really the attitude. So an attitude of a can-do attitude. Yep, I can do it. It might not be my job description, but anything that's going to help the organisation, to help that club, and help enable us to grow. That's the attitude of all our staff. So we're blessed in that instance, and ultimately, as an organisation, we're on the same journey. We know that. Being here in Tarneit and actually owning everything and being able to, control our own destiny, not be at the mercy of, stadiums that are owned by, or controlled by others' codes or not ours. Ultimately, our vision is now.
I mean, I spoke to E-Ray Saban at Jacksonville recently, and he talked about their stadium at Everbank and the fact that, yes, they have their tenant of the Jacksonville Jaguars there for their NFL matches, but part of also their story is what is the other content that they can get into their venue, whether it be concerts or other things. Are they sort of things that you're starting to look at that plan, from 26, 27, what type of content potentially you can get into the stadium?
Yeah, absolutely. And even before that, we hosted the National Gridiron or US NFL football championships here at our smaller boutique stadium, a few weeks ago. We're in talks to host, Diwali Festival and other festivals to better engage with the community. And even over the next 2-3 years, whilst the main stadium's being built, we're going to be running lots of events to bring the community to us, which helps, build brand empathy, let people who may not even know we exist know that we exist. But doing that through cultural events, social events, and that's the vision, from now leading into the larger stadium in the 26-27 season. As I said, with the larger stadium, it is outward facing. That's going to have lots of, it's going to enable the community gathering to watch the World Cup or the Euros or the Olympics. And it's actually for those who know Melbourne, it's a Fed Square on a much bigger scale, which means people in this region don't need to go into the city to watch sporting events or get their kick of entertainment or concerts. They can actually stay local, and we'd represent this demographic and grow with them. And like I said, the population of just Wyndham by 2041, which isn't that far away, is anticipated to be over 500,000 people. That's larger population than Tasmania and Canberra. So, yeah, we know we're in the right area. Now it's just a matter of growing and doing all the things we now have authority to go ahead and do.
And being in that growth corridor and being very multicultural and diverse in that region, do you think that's going to also give you some real opportunities with sponsors and partners that want to reach both that audience but also talk to a wide variety of fans?
Absolutely. And I look at I talk about this publicly. I'm a first-generation Australian. My parents were born overseas in Greece, and my grandparents. And I look back at my grandparents who came here back in the 50s and 60s and couldn't speak the language, other side of the world, but sport helped them integrate. So, my two passions are AFL football and football, the world game football. But I make reference to my dad and my grandfather that would always hang out with their Aussie mates and they'd go to the footy with them. And our whole family's North Melbourne supporters because when they first moved to Australia, they lived in North Melbourne. But then they used to go to the football with us and follow the Greek team back then, which was South Melbourne. And ultimately, even though the language was a barrier, sport was a connector. So I look at the growth area here, and it's young families, it's new Australians, and ultimately sport, especially the global game and the games we're targeting, or being the basketball, the football, it's globally known, and it helps kids integrate into new surrounds. It helps people integrate. So we know we've got the right area because this is where the population growth is, and ultimately our teams and our franchise will be at the heart of that.
I mean, you've been lucky enough to, be a sports fan like myself, but also, get behind the scenes in the athlete management business and that kind of stuff to understand the sports business. What if building a new franchise and building a team from scratch is hard work? What have been some of your key lessons and things you've learned over the last 5 years with Western United?
Yeah, it is difficult, and ultimately we've had all the things I mentioned earlier, that have compounded and made it even more difficult. But ultimately, growing a franchise, it's getting the community buy-in to what you're doing. And I feel like we've done that really well. Now it's our ability to engage with the local community in our home. So that's a big game changer for us because, as I said, we played in all parts of Victoria. We went into Tasmania, who are an awesome partner as well, mind you. But now we're actually in our home, and our growth comes from the community. So when you're building a franchise, and we have everything: futsal, men's and women's in futsal, esports. We won the esports. We didn't have academies for our first 2 years. Now we have academies for boys and girls, and some of the talent coming out of our academies are phenomenal. We've been promoted, from NPL 3 to NPL 2, and we're in the promotion territory to go up to the NPL 1 for our young kids. And we're only playing under 23 players against men in the academies, but some of the talent is phenomenal, which again then enables them to play in the men's and then reach their aspirations to one day play for Australia and go overseas if that's their ambition. So when you're growing a franchise, I think it's really just being authentic with your community, engaging with the community, and getting people to buy in as part of, hey, that's my club. And ultimately, we feel like we've done that really well, but it'll go up another gear now that we're in Tarneit.
And the other part of, building a sports franchise, we've talked a lot about connecting with the fans and building that fan base, is the high performance side. And so you're in the training facility. And again, just as much as the fans had to travel to all these different places, your coaching staff and your players were, nomads early on in finding different places to train. How important is to start having that stability of the training facility and have the options they have in front of them now?
Yeah, it's really just building a home and a fortress, which we haven't been able to do. So even the first game that we won here against Macarthur, we were, from memory, I think we were 1-0 down or 2-0 down, and then scored 4 goals in 15 minutes. And the noise was, I think it was 3,500 people in a 4,000 at that stage capacity, and the noise was phenomenal. And ultimately, the noise got the players. It was the 12th man on the pitch that actually got us across the line. But ultimately, that'll just grow and grow and grow. As we grow and grow. So it's enormous. And it's the biggest, the players, like I said, travelled everywhere. Now they've got, all our staff, our administration staff, our men's, our women's, our academy are all in the one venue, and it just builds that togetherness. It creates that culture that we were lucky enough to already have, but now it goes to another level because they're all seeing each other and working closer together every day. And that's, again, how you continue to build your franchise internally, but also that empathy with the community that we're trying to connect with.
I mean, it's been a common theme when a lot of teams have been moving to new facilities, is actually getting front office staff and the high performance staff in the same building. Like it solves a whole bunch of problems, especially for the people I work with in the digital space. It's much easier in media to get access to the players if you're not spending half of your week driving to a practice facility, to get 30 seconds of video. You can start telling those stories and also build better rapport with the team, the membership department, the media department, the board. It makes it much easier once everyone's in the same building.
Absolutely.
So, Jason, I want to get to the Sports Geek closing five. Really appreciate you taking the time. Do you remember the first sports event you ever attended?
I remember two. So I was a mad AFL and football. Probably they're my thematics, but I remember going. I was a mad Fitzroy supporter, and just going to a lot of the Fitzroy games with my school friends and mates. And so when I say Fitzroy, the family was north. I got bribed when I was younger to go to Fitzroy, and Fitzroy exited the competition, hence I'm North Melbourne now. And also remember going to South Melbourne games in the soccer, because that was where my dad was we didn't come from money. My dad was working. My grandparents were working a lot, so the weekends on the Sunday was our day together. And I still remember going to watch South Melbourne and seeing all my cousins and family. Dad would catch up with his mates, and we'd So they're the two sporting events I remember as a kid, was football with the family and following the Greek community and being really passionate and going with my dad and my grandparents, and then integrating using AFL and going with my school friends to watch the AFL.
Do you have a favourite food memory at a sports event, or a go-to food when you're heading to a sports event?
It's hard to go to an AFL game or anywhere and not have a pie with sauce. And even though I suppose the higher up the corporate ladder you get, as much and as beautiful as the corporate functions are and the fancy food, there's nothing better than a hot pie with some sauce on a cold winter's day watching the footy. So that's my AFL food. And there's I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but in football, in soccer, they're like, especially the NPL community, they've got a bit of a food cult going on. So different teams cook different foods depending on what their background is. So the Greeks might have a gyros, or might be a cevapcici from some of the Balkan clubs, and So ultimately, I every time I go to watch one of my local teams or watch our team, it's always picking up a gyros as well. So pie with sauce and the gyros.
And the food game in the stadium game has leveled up in the past, 25 years. Is that something that you're, definitely looking for, in your new stadium, what you're offering? Yes, everyone will still probably want hot dog and a pie with sauce because it's sort of the standard stadium fare. But is there things you're going to look to provide some of those elevated food experiences? We are,
and we've actually got a pretty unique plan on how we're going to grow our food offering. So it actually starts at the next season. But all I'll say is it's going to involve the local communities and the different ethnicities within the community. And as part of our brand connection is actually bringing the community, having festivals around our dish, getting the fan favourite for that dish, and then potentially having that dish at our game. So that's a touch of the strategy. But ultimately, we won't be, we'll have standard, fast food, pies and chips and hot dogs and what have you. But we want to put a unique, Wyndham sort of feel to our precinct.
Look forward to it. What's the first app you open in the morning?
If there's sport on, it's normally one of the sports apps. So Euro's on at the moment. So it's normally, if I'm not up for it, it's live score or something like that. Or someone's probably sent me a link from over. I've got quite a few businesses overseas as well. So sometimes it's a link of an article I've got to read, which leads me into a news article or a sport article, but it'll be something normally sports or news related.
Thank you. Is there someone that you follow that the podcast listeners should check out, and why?
I follow different people and I'll put it, there's a bit of I'm biased here, but I'll say Scott Pendlebury, and because he's a good friend of mine, as you know, and a mentor. I've helped him since he was really young, and But he follows a lot of, from a high performance, he follows a lot of people that he'll send me links that I'll end up following, or have a look at this or watch this. But even from business, I think he's got a really good mix now. So we did the Pendlebury wine recently. He's got his app around health and movement and chiropractic. Not chiropractic. I should give him a better plug here, Scotty. But ultimately, he's got his own business ventures that are close to his heart. So from the wine to the movement and structuring app to he's a guy that, albeit in Australia, is looking outwards to see how he can better himself, and also looking for a lot of different business ventures, and someone that I follow pretty closely.
And I do, and cheer him on from the stands as he gets closer and closer to 400 AFL games. And a lot of people do talk about athletes and authenticity, and Scott lives and breathes it, because everything that he does do is things that he is interested in because he wants to know more. And whether he's following what LeBron is doing with athlete management and looking after your body, and that's because that's what he's passionate about. That does lead to the things he wants to be involved in. So you don't have to have any problems with authenticity with Pendles.
Absolutely, and that authenticity comes across, because ultimately, even the things he's in, he's actually passionate about. So give Scott a follow if you're not already.
Definitely. And then lastly, what social media platform is your MVP? What's the one that helps you stay connected with the people you need to be connected with, but also with what you're trying to keep on top of?
Do you know what? I'm always stuck in a reel. I've got 2 young kids as well, so it's hard to find that downtime. But someone's sending me something that ends me flicking through a reel. So whether that's on Instagram or TikTok or something, and my algorithms, they've got them down pat. So it's generally leading through to sport or something actually quite humorous. So I'd say quite a tie at the moment between TikTok and Instagram.
But it probably is potentially WhatsApp, because it's coming from someone that's coming to you that's letting you down some rabbit hole. So sometimes totally. Your own network is your best social network in some instances.
Absolutely.
Jason, if people want to reach out and find out more about the project, follow Western United and the like, what's the best way for them to stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so Western Melbourne Group. .com is the website for the broader project. So it's not just Western United Football Club. There's a link through to Western United Football Club. But westernmelbournegroup.com will talk about the broader project and the city that we're building. And then Jassac Investments, so jassac.com, JASZAC, just talks about the different businesses that our family or that we've been investing in, and there's the portfolios under there. So any new investments we go for, normally we'll broadcast through the Jassac Investment website, and also the Instagram handles at Jassac and LinkedIn's Jassac.
True. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Look forward to seeing the project develop and obviously open in a couple of years' time, and we'll keep following the journey.
Awesome. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having me.
Looking to help your digital or sponsorship team? Book in for a Pick My Brain session with Sean Callanan to help your team level up. Book now at sportsgeekhq.com/pickmybrain.
Thanks again to Jason Sourasis. You can connect with Jason on LinkedIn. We will put links to all the websites and to Western United in the show notes. You can find them at sportsgeekhq.com/382. So you can catch up and follow Jason and Western United. Brought back a lot of memories talking to Jason around building a club from scratch, which is what they've done with Western United. Especially just recently, I got a bunch of Facebook memories for our early days of Gravitas when we owned and ran and started from scratch a League of Legends esports team. It was really challenging and fun at the same time in building out a team and looking to do things to, I guess, break through the noise, grab the attention of fans, give fans a reason, which again had the same difficulties that Jason did with many of our seasons affected by COVID and not being able to have events. But yeah, that building that one fan at a time is a philosophy that definitely works for startup teams, but I think it's also something that established teams can look to do more often in how can they surprise and delight and connect with fans at a one-on-one level? And I think that's part of what, personalization and CRM opportunities are out there. But, I think also there's opportunities in something simple like replying to a tweet, replying to a comment, going up to a fan in their seats. All of those things can really lock in fans. You always want to be looking for those moments. So that's it from me for this episode. Thank you for listening. My name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Do you get Sports Geek news? Sean Callanan analyzes the latest sports business articles for you weekly. Sign up at sportsgeekhq.com. Want to help drive more revenue from your digital efforts? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call.